In this final season of Euphoria, we have a 4-year time jump and explore the adult lives of the characters we've grown to love over the years. This third and final season has a total different vibe from the previous 2 seasons, but I do believe it's because the characters are no longer teenagers in high school, they're young adults that are out in the world trying to survive, and I believe the show's creator wanted to convey that through the story and cinematography. There are plenty of wide cinematic shots that weren't so prevalent in the previous seasons, but I do believe this was meant to visually represent the open world of adult life. We are no longer witnessing these characters dwell in their old neighborhoods, high school, and under adult protection and a neon color palette. There's also a Western theme that's ushered in by the main protagonist, Rue, due to her dealings with a criminal and caricature of a Black American man named Alamo. She starts working for him as a way to quit being a drug mule for the character Lori. However, she later learns all isn't what it appears to be and that she possibly made a deal with the devil. Throughout this season, the character Maddie, who once dreamt of being a kept woman, deals with the harsh reality that no one is coming to save her and muscles her way into working for a talent management company. It appears her boss actually respected her tenacity and work ethic. However, they begin to have a conflict when her employer discovers she's managing an OnlyFans model under her company name. This later gets her fired when she tries to more stealthily manage Cassie. We see she appears to have moved on from the betrayal of Cassie stealing her high school boyfriend Nate. As she looks fabulous at their wedding, she left the wedding appearing to mourn the life she thought she would have with him. However, she later finds out all isn't what it seems when it comes to Nate and Cassie's marriage. Nate gets involved with loan sharks and is apparently scamming his funders out of their money. I was shocked that Nate turned out to be a scammer. Due to him owing money to a criminal, this puts a financial strain on their marriage, which also has violent and deadly consequences for both Nate and Cassie. After he's violently attacked on their wedding night, Cassie learns he owes over $1 million to the mobster and begins to step up her OnlyFans content to earn money. This gets her back in contact with Maddie so she can help her increase her followers. She eventually earns enough to help Nate begin making payments. But in the end, the loan shark grew more impatient and continues to violently torture Nate until he eventually ends up dying by snake bite because he buried him alive underground in the middle of the desert. This causes Cassie to be kidnapped and makes Maddie get involved with Alamo so he can help her save Cassie and get rid of the mobster. Alamo helps her but reminds her she owes him, even though he didn't pay the $1 million ransom because he killed the mobster. This character cannot be trusted. After learning it was too late for Nate to be saved, Cassie and Maddie appear to mourn at a diner after discovering Nate's lifeless corpse. They both seem deeply saddened by the loss of this troubled man whom they both shared a connection with. They continue to work together to get out of the debt they owe Alamo. The character Jules attends art school and begins to earn money by being a sugar baby for wealthier older men. She eventually drops out of school to be a full-time sugar baby to a plastic surgeon who's into trans women and seems to be smitten with Jules. He puts her in a penthouse apartment and takes care of all her expenses. This throws off her on-again, off-again relationship with Rue when Rue expresses the truth about Jules' role in the life of a married man who shows up to fulfill his fetish. We don't see much of her this season, but by the finale, it seems this is a life Jules has settled for. Rue gets so deep in with Alamo and Lori, she's eventually arrested one night after a drug run and is coerced into working with the DEA, so she doesn't end up in prison. Throughout her acting as a double agent, Rue gets into many situations that put her life in danger. Alamo learns that Rue is working with the DEA because Maddie unintentionally tells him. He eventually outsmarts the DEA and takes out his supplier in competition, Lori. It turns out old girl couldn't handle going to prison and takes herself out. Alamo, being the sneaky son of a bitch that he is, plays on Rue's addiction and takes her out with fentanyl-laced Percocet pills. That's right, Rue meets her death in this final season in a way that really touches the viewers emotionally if you've been following this character since season 1. Unfortunately, she dies in the comfort of Ali's home, which causes him to wake up and find her lifeless body on his couch. He calls her mother and tells her the sad news, and avenges her death by killing Alamo by the end of the final episode. This final season was a bit divisive amongst fans, but I think it's because of the drastic tonal shift of the show. Although, it made sense because of the time jump and seeing these characters navigate the world as adults. I could not stand the character Alamo because he came off a bit too campy for me and some of his lines were just atrocious. No real person speaks the way he does. The character Nate was completely neutered this season. It was interesting seeing him deal with real world consequences due to him trying to manipulate the wrong people. However, to watch him constantly get beat up without fighting back was strange. The teenager who got his hands on a gun suddenly doesn't own one in his adult life. The handling of his character in this final season just didn't add up to me. Lexi's storyline isn't even worth mentioning. I like that she began to find success in her career, but she was still the judgmental younger sister of Cassie. I would have liked to see more growth from her. Cassie and Maddie's storylines were intertwined and both characters dealt with their lives not turning out the way they hoped they would, and having to make do with the cards they were dealt. It's nice to see Cassie made a way for herself outside of Nate, with the help of Maddie. I'm also glad Maddie was freed from Alamo since Allie killed him. I just hope she remains ambitious and really builds a full life for herself. Lastly, Zendaya's final performance of Rue was amazing. Sometimes she would get on your nerves based on the decisions she made that eventually caused her to lose her life, but that's always been Rue. I think fans of the show wanted so much more for these characters, but the creator, Sam Levinson, wanted to depict a realistic story for people who struggle with addiction. I just think there was such a disconnect from the previous 2 seasons. It was jarring to the fans and it caused many of them to dislike the final season. I personally didn't hate it, but had an issue with the way some characters were written. When it was announced there would be a 4-year time jump, I knew he would have to take a different approach with the show, but clearly it was too much for fans and critics. I think the latter half of the season was stronger than the first half. I'm going to rate the final season of Euphoria at B-. If you like this review, please like, comment, share, and subscribe.